and welcome to another session of Toy Soldiers Are Us. A few sessions back I mentioned that toy soldiers had either display value or play value. Display value is when a collector has a display case and he puts the soldiers on the shelf and there they stay, and if he's lucky they don't collect too much dust. Play value is where a collector can use his toy soldiers in various scenes and settings. Well, one thing is, toy soldiers have to have some place to live and work and fight. So what I want to show you today is some of the buildings that I've used in terms of playing with my toy soldier collection. First, we will look at a barracks or headquarters building for a frontier fort and part of the stockade wall that would encircle the fort. This view is from the interior of the fort. The building and the stockade wall are made of 1/4-inch diameter walnut dowel rods that I usually buy in 3-foot lengths. I've made about 20 buildings over the years using this material. Next, we will view the fort from the outside. Here we see 2 rows of loopholes the defenders would use to fire at attackers, and also the cupola or watchtower on top of the building. Below the cupola is the entrance to the fort. Unfortunately, I have not yet added the gates. Now let's take a look inside the building. I like to create buildings that can be taken apart so that figures and furniture can be placed inside. So first, we will remove the roof of the cupola, and now you can see the ladder that would be used to ascend into this observation post. Next, we'll remove the cupola itself and the adjoining roof sections to get a view of the interior of the building. This might be a barracks area where the soldiers would sleep, and you can also see the stairway that leads to the first floor. Next, we see the same stockade wall used with a blockhouse. The first level of the blockhouse appears to be made of stone, though not really, and the second story is made of wood. Now the roof comes off, and we get a look inside. We can see some furniture, including a glimpse of a table in the lower left corner and 2 sets of bunk beds. One of them is occupied by a lazy soldier, while the second soldier is firing out of the window. And finally, we have a village inn or tavern during early colonial times or during the American Revolution. Outside, we see the tavern owner waving a welcome as we approach. Now we'll remove the roof sections and get a glimpse inside. In the lower level of the building, we see a couple of guests enjoying some ale and some conversation, while a serving wench stands by to fill the mugs when needed. Off to the right are a table and chair awaiting visitors. Looking at the inn from the other side, we now see some additional furniture and that same lazy soldier from the blockhouse. In the upstairs section, we find a colonel of militia giving instructions to a captain of artillery. The colonel is also in the process of writing orders, or perhaps it is a request to his superiors for additional supplies of cannonballs and gunpowder. I can't quite make out what he has written. Previously, I showed you a colonial tavern and a frontier blockhouse and stockade that I had constructed. This time I'm going to show you my western town. Here it is, and as you'll see, the buildings on the ends are pretty much done. We still need to do the interior, and by that I mean we need some furniture in there, and then we need some wallpaper on the walls. Over here, again, we need an interior, but the building itself is almost done. This whole section is under construction. The hotel is nearing completion. We still need a roof and some other things. Then we have another building that we only have the frame of, which is going to be going here, and then yet another building will go here. It hasn't even been started yet. But that will be my western town. And now we're going to add some people to the western town. It looks like we've ridden into town in the middle of a gunfight. Some of the participants seem to have been hit, but they're still blazing away. Here's a guy firing down from the hotel balcony. His perch looks pretty safe compared to the others. And here's the town sheriff, who appears to be in no hurry to intervene in the fray. If you were wondering about the building materials, they are mainly the following. First, 1/32 inch plywood. Second, wooden coffee stir sticks from Starbucks. Popsicle sticks. Wooden matchsticks for the railing on the hotel balcony and the panels on the saloon door. And dollhouse cedar shingles for the roofs of the buildings on each end. And lots of glue. In the middle of the scene is a cowboy on horseback with a desperado flung over the saddle of a second horse. We cannot really tell if he is a prisoner or a corpse. Now, if we look into the saloon, we can catch a glimpse of some people. There seems to be a bartender pouring a drink. And maybe we can get into a card game. Let's go inside. It's pretty smoky in here, but we can make out the scene a little better. There's a bartender I mentioned, serving a thirsty cowboy just in from the trail. And here's the poker game in full swing. And if you look very close, you might notice the cowboy with his back to you, the one on the left, has drawn his 6-shooter. He must have either just lost a big pot, or maybe he thinks he's caught someone cheating. We might have another gunfight soon. It looks like nobody pays attention to the sign on the saloon window about checking guns at the door. This must be somewhere in Texas. Now here are two buildings that represent colonial America that I did not make. But I think they tend to illustrate the difference between what I described before as display value versus play value. This building is from the Barzo playset of the American Revolution, the Lexington Concord playset. And you'll notice, while it's a wonderful building, if you take the roof off, it's solid on the inside and therefore has little play value in and by itself. This building is made by Toy Soldiers of San Diego. And if you take the roof off here, you'll notice that the entire second floor is finished. You have the floorboards, you have open windows so your soldiers can be positioned to shoot out of the windows. That's play value. Now we have a building that, again, I wouldn't attempt to make. This is one of many buildings in the Alamo playsets made by Conti Collectibles. I think there were 5, 6, or maybe 7 playsets, and he almost finished a complete Alamo, but didn't. So others had to take over for it. But you could have the roof off or not, or you can put the roof on in order to hold some of the soldiers. Here we have a view from the inside of the Alamo. One of the many things I really like about this particular building is the detail, with footprints on the dirt ramp, along with traces of wheel ruts from pushing the cannon into position. As you can see, Conti makes wonderful figures and wonderful buildings. Unfortunately, we haven't seen a whole lot of new production from Conti for the past couple of 3 years. But 4 of the 5 figures in this scene are made by Conti, the 3 cannoneers, and the gentleman here. This figure is made by King and Country, which also did a series of Alamo figures, which are also very nice. So that's a quick view of buildings in which to house your toy soldiers. I must admit I enjoy making mine more than buying them, but I'm not good enough to make some of these that I've shown you, so you gotta buy them. And that's the good news. If you can't make it, you can always find one of the manufacturers who will sell you a complete one. Now, so much for buildings. Next time I want to talk about vignettes and dioramas, and I hope to be able to show you a complete diorama. So long for now.